Okay, guys, welcome to our new virtual learning platform. What we're going to do today is we're going to be working on your Chromebooks in a program on your Waffle that's called SketchUp for Schools. And SketchUp for Schools is a 3D rendering program. You may not kind of understand what that means when I say 3D rendering program, but what it's going to help you do is draw things in 3 dimensions. And you're going to be able to build a virtual world that those things exist in. It's kind of fun. We're going to use it to build a house or a building. And then you guys are going to be able to play around with it and do all kinds of stuff. So first things first, you're going to need to open up a new tab on your screen. So what I've got here in front of me is a Google tab. It's open on my screen, and then we're going to focus. If you could find my mouse on the screen, I'm circling it right now so you can see it. My mouse is going to go up here to the Google Apps waffle. I'm going to click on my waffle, and I'm going to arrow all the way down to where it says SketchUp for Schools. I'm going to move my picture for a second. Where it says SketchUp for Schools right here, and you're going to click on that button. I'm going to move myself back over here to the corner. Now, for you guys, it may prompt you to go through a few screens first. It may ask you to agree to this and click on this and click on that and do this and do that. Go ahead and get through that. And then once you get to a screen where it says Start Modeling Now, you'll click on that Start Modeling Now. And that will bring up that icon for you in the middle of your screen. And then that icon, once that is loaded, it'll bring you to your home screen. And this is my home screen. I've got 3 drawings on here. We're going to have another drawing when we're done. But all we have to do once we get there is go to Create New. And we're going to select Simple Template, Feet and Inches. Okay. And that's going to bring up our SketchUp for Schools kind of screen, our environment, we call this. So what you've got here to kind of explain your environment is you've got this little bitty guy right here. And this guy is, I don't know, 5 feet 11, 6 feet tall. He's there to give you scale. Okay. So when you're making your drawing, if you were drawing like a chair, you don't make the chair 10 feet tall by 60 feet long. Okay, so this guy's here to help give you some scale, so to draw from. And then what you're also going to see here is a blue line, a red line, and a green line. This blue line that exists right here is our vertical axis. Okay, so that's our up and down axis, vertical, up and down. And then we have our red line, which we'll call our east-west axis. And then we've got our green line, which we call our north-south axis. So we've got all of these axes. And these axes are going to help us kind of understand where things are being drawn at in our 3-dimensional world. Now, over here on the side, we've got our toolbar. You can kind of see my toolbar. I have my screen shrunk a little bit, so you're getting a little bit of my desktop in the background, but we've got our toolbar on the left. We're going to use this for most everything we do. And then we've got a toolbar here on the right where you can play around with it and add textures and all kinds of stuff to your drawing. So here we go. First things first. If you're not here yet, I want you to pause the video, and feel free to pause the video at any time. So pause the video, get there. Once you're there, unpause the video, and then we'll get started drawing stuff. If you're there, just keep watching the video. Pause it when you feel necessary, and I'll kind of give you a prompt. This would be a good time to pause and work on it, and then restart the video once you feel like you're there. So, excuse me. First thing that we're going to do is we are going to learn how to draw in SketchUp. So when I draw in SketchUp, I have a series of tools. The easiest tool to learn to draw from is going to be this tool right here. This is called the rectangle tool. I'm going to click on the rectangle tool, and that's going to bring up a submenu. That submenu has a rectangle, a rotated rectangle, circle, polygon, and 3D text. For right now, all we're going to use is that top rectangle tool. So I'm going to click on that, and then that's going to bring up my pencil and a small blue rectangle that is sitting on the ground. It runs in a north, south, east, west direction. I'm going to click with my computer mouse and I'm going to drag out a rectangle. I'm going to let it go. And as soon as I let it go, this is going to give me a rectangle that's on the ground. Now, go ahead and feel like you need to pause the video if you want to go ahead and do this. And then when you're done drawing the rectangle, draw a couple rectangles, draw them out on the ground, whatever makes you feel happy. Draw out several, doesn't matter. Once you get the hang of it, unpause the video and we'll move on. Okay, so hopefully you've got your rectangles drawn now. And then what we have to talk about is a computer mouse. If you're not using a computer mouse for this right now, it would probably be a good idea to use that computer mouse because of the navigation inside this program. So you've got these navigation tools in the program that are going to help you move around inside of SketchUp for Schools. Okay, and that navigation exists down here at the bottom of the toolbar. So if I click on Orbit, this Orbit tool down here, it's going to bring up another submenu, and I can click on this top tool, and that's my Orbit tool. So if I click on the Orbit tool, what I can do is I can move around inside of my world. Okay, so I'm moving around, I'm underneath, I'm above, I'm to the side, I'm to the other side, I'm completely from the top. So I'm in and out of my world. Okay, I'm moving around, moving around, moving around. That's the Orbit tool. Then over here, you've got the Zoom tool. Okay, the Zoom tool looks like a magnifying glass. And if I click on the Zoom tool, it's going to allow me to move in and move out, move in and move out. I can't do much else with the Zoom tool except move in and move out. Now, again, I'm using a computer mouse for this, and I'm showing you what the tools do, but I'm going to show you a little trick in just a second. So I click on the magnifying glass again, and it's going to leave me a little hand. This is called the pan tool. This is going to allow me to move side to side, left and right. Okay, side to side, left and right, up and down, side to side, but I'm not moving around and I'm not moving in or out. Okay, so play around with these tools for a second, pause the video. When you get unpaused, I'm going to show you a little trick that's going to make it a lot easier. Okay, all right, so hopefully you've played around with these tools a little bit. I've gone back to my arrow tool, which is just the top, it's a select tool, and you'll notice I'm able to perform a zoom without clicking on the zoom tool. And you'll notice that I'm able to perform a pan without clicking on the pan tool. And you'll also notice I'm able to create an orbit without clicking on the orbit tool. I'm doing that with my mouse. So here's how this works. It's very simple. Most mouses have a roller in the center. If you have that mouse hooked up and you use that roller as you roll upward, it's going to zoom in. As you roll downward, it's going to zoom out. If I push down on the roller like a button, that's going to allow me to orbit. Okay. And if I press down on that zoom or on that roller and I press down on the left click, that's going to allow me to pan left, right, up, down. So these are kind of quicker ways to use your mouse to help navigate within this world. Okay, so again, if you've got a mouse, and I do recommend that you have a mouse on this, if you've got a mouse, go ahead, play around with that mouse for a second, get used to the feeling of it, get used to the way it moves and the way it is. It's a lot easier to build things in SketchUp when you're using a mouse. So pause the video, play around with that for a second, and come back. Okay, so hopefully you're back. You understand the mouse a little bit more and how to use it to be successful in SketchUp. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to take those rectangles that we drew. And we're going to turn those, instead of flat objects, if I look at the screen from a side view, you'll notice those are completely flat and laying on the ground. I'm going to angle back up where you can see them using my orbit tool. And now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to select a little button right here on my toolbar. This is the most important button in SketchUp for Schools. This is called the push-pull button. So I'm going to click on the push-pull button. It's going to bring up my button select tool, and I'm going to click on the top one that's push-pull. Now you'll notice if I click on certain things, if I'm on the green ground, nothing comes up. If I click on the little guy, you'll notice a little circle with a line through it comes up. That's telling me I can't push-pull that. Okay, if I click on the green, nothing happens. Well, a little line comes up, or a little don't do this comes up. If I click on this line, a little don't do this comes up. If I click on this line, a little don't do this comes up. So what I want to do is, what good is the push-pull tool if I can't use it? Well, the only thing you can use a push-pull on are your shapes. So you'll notice I click on my shape, or I scroll over top of my shapes. Don't click yet. If I scroll over top of my shapes, it's going to give me a pattern of dots on top of that particular shape. Okay, if I move to this one, pattern of dots, move to this one, pattern of dots, move to this one, pattern of dots. So what I want to do is I want to understand I can use those tools, or this tool, on these shapes. So it's a really simple tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see this full thing happen. And I'm going to click on this back rectangle. I'm going to click and I'm going to pull upwards, just like that. And now instead of a flat rectangle on the ground, I have a cuboid, rectangular prism, whatever you want to call it, here to look like I've got a three-dimensional object. Now I'm going to pull the rest of these up, all at different heights, so we can see them. And we'll pull that one right there. And now I've got, if you will, a series of cuboids. Okay. What's cool about the push-pull tool is no matter which geometric plane I'm looking at, and I can look, remember, I can look all around this model. So no matter what geometric plane I'm looking at, you'll notice it always can move over top of, and I'm not going to get the red circle with a line through it. Anyway, I can move this wall. I can move this wall. I can rotate to the other side. I can move this wall. I can move this up and down. I can pull this way. I can push this way. I can do all things I want with this, as long as I have a geometric plane that I can push or pull. Now, what's neat about this is you'll notice these are all different sizes. What's cool is if I click on one and hold it, and then I reach over here and I touch the top of this box, it's going to say on face. It's going to make both of these boxes the exact same height. If I take this one and I click on there, exact same height. If I take this one and click on there, exact. Now look, they're all exactly the same height. Now that comes in handy a little later when you're doing stuff. Okay, that's just a neat little fact and things that you can do with it. So that's our push-pull tool. Go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to play around with the push-pull a little bit, have some fun. All right, hopefully you're back from your push-pull experience and you're ready to do a little bit more. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to click on our line tool, and you guys are going to love this. So let me get a good click there, sorry. And we're going to click on the upper tool. This is the script or the freehand tool. You don't want to use that. That doesn't really work too much for what we're going to do. You can play around with it, but it really just kind of gets kids in a lot of trouble sometimes in their model. I use SketchUp for a lot of things, and I use this freehand tool absolutely never. Sorry, I had to have a little drink of my coffee. It's early in the morning, you can tell by my screen. So basically, I've got the pencil tool here, or the line tool, they call it. And what I can do is I can use this to draw straight lines. So I'm going to zoom in on one of my models, or one of my rectangles. And I'm going to show you a couple things with this. So first, I can draw any angle I want to. line. So I clicked on the edge of my rectangle, and I'm just dragging that over. I'm not holding down the button. I'm just dragging it over, and it's going to tell me when I'm at the edge. So it's going to say on edge, and the red means that it's a straight line traveling east and west. Okay, I'm going to click on that, and that has now given me a straight line across my object. I can also click and draw a vertical straight line. I can click and draw a diagonal straight line if I want. I don't know why I just did that. But that's all kind of what you can do with this. I'm going to hit Control Z, and I'm going to go back at this. Now what I want to show you is the coolest little feature on SketchUp is if I get somewhere near the middle. Ooh, do you see what it did there? Watch. Somewhere near the middle, it'll snap, boom, to a blue circle. And that is going to draw, or it's going to tell me where the midpoint is in this line. So the midpoint in this line means the middle. And I'm going to draw a line straight down from the middle. And I'm going to orbit around, and I'm going to show you why this is a useful tool. So check this out. So I'm going to go back to my push-pull. So I'm going to use this in a combination of things. So watch. I've got, notice, if I select on this side, it selects the entire rectangle. But if I select on this side, it only selects inside of where that rectangle or where that line was drawn before. Watch this. Push-pull, push-pull, push-pull. I can do anything now inside of this model because the line segments off a section of our model, and it allows us to go ahead and push-pull smaller sections. This is really helpful when building things in your model, okay? It's really helpful when building things in your model. So what I want you to do is play around with your line tool in SketchUp. I'm going to draw a diagonal line right now, and I'm going to snap it to the midpoint. Watch this. Push-pull, and this one's really cool. I'm going to zoom back so you can see this. Well, it's not going to work. So let me push this. Watch this. This is a neat little thing too. So if I push this all the way to the back and it says on edge, bam, it's going to disappear. Now watch this. That's neat. Holy moly. Now it's drawing all kinds of angled lines. See, I can do all kinds of stuff with this. Okay, so what I want you to do is play around with the line tool, and I want you to play around with that in conjunction with your push-pull tool. And then I want you to go ahead and mess around with one of your rectangles, okay? So pause the video, mess around with your rectangle. Okay, so hopefully you're unpaused now, and you've got some funky looking rectangles and you're having some fun with it. You're push-pulling, you're beginning to understand the way things work in your model. What I want to show you is a push-through, okay? So I want to show you a push-through on the video. So I'm going to just grab a rectangle over here, and I'm going to go right over here to the side of my object. Now, you've got to make sure when you do a push-through, you've got to make sure that there's nothing on the back side of this. You got to make sure that you got a clear path to do this. So if you don't have a clear path, then you're going to run into problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle this around where I can see the back of my shape. I'm going to click and drag this around, and I can drag it all the way through my object like this. See how it come out the back? Or I can touch the back edge, and it says on edge. And I'm going to let that go. And what I've done is I've created a hole, or some people call it a window, where I can go right through my object, zoom back around, check it out, and there we are. We got a little window. Okay, so play around with that for a second. Get yourself a push through on your objects, and then we can start to really build some stuff in SketchUp. Okay, so pause your video. And we are back. So you're unpaused now. I'm going to show you how to delete some stuff. So a lot of kids will go to the eraser tool, and they'll start erasing stuff in SketchUp, and it gets messy. So I'm going to hit Control Z till I get back to my original shape. There we go. If you want to get rid of this thing, all you need to do is go to the Select tool and click 1, 2, 3 times, and then hit the Delete button on your laptop, and it is gone. So again, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, delete, 1, 2, 3, delete, 1, 2, 3, delete, and now your model is clear. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. The first thing that I want you guys to do and to play around with is I want you to draw a chair. Okay, so you're going to draw a chair for practice. The chair is for practice. That's me telling you one. It's for practice. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to draw a chair really easy. Okay, and the reason that I have you draw a chair is when SketchUp first came up as a program. So I'm going to draw a square. When SketchUp first came out as a program, I'm going to push pull this to what it looks like about the size of a chair. Maybe right there. Okay, when SketchUp first came out as a program, its very first tutorial was draw a chair, because drawing a chair shows a great deal of skill that has to happen. So you see what I did there is I drew a line across, and then I push and pulled that line to where it's got a seat. I want that seat to be about knee high. I'm going to drop this back down a little bit. There we go. That seat's about knee high. And that chair looks a little wide, so I'm going to push that in a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bottom of my chair. And what does a chair have? Legs. So I'm going to draw legs. Now, one of the things that I can do here is I can take my square tool and I can draw, let me get the better angle here. I can draw squares out on the bottom like this. Square, square. It's not really square, they're rectangles, but whatever. Rectangle, rectangle. Okay, so I can draw those out, and then I can take my angle, and I can push pull it, and boom, I got myself a chair. Or I can try to do this a little bit cleaner, and I can draw a line. Why does that keep doing that? I can draw a line, and then draw another line, and then draw a line across this way, and a line across this way. And now I would click on my eraser tool, and I would erase those lines, and this is going to be a lot cleaner and look a lot more even. Okay, so then you got yourself a chair again. And then again, any geometric plane that you're working on, you can go ahead and you can resize by push pulling and doing all kinds of stuff with it. So play around. I want you to draw a chair. It's really simple. You can rewind the video and you can follow along step by step and pause. And then once you got your chair drawn, go ahead and come back to this part in the video and we're going to draw something else. All right, I have deleted my chair. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw a house. And this is going to lead us to what our project's going to be. So very simple project. You're going to be drawing a house, or you can draw your room. I don't care which. A house would be a little less detail oriented, and a room would be more detail oriented. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a big old rectangle out on the ground. And I'm going to draw another rectangle over here on the ground, and another rectangle here on the ground. And I'm going to draw another rectangle over here on the ground. I'm going to draw another rectangle right here on the ground. I'm going to zoom back. I'm going to draw another rectangle right here on the ground. And that's giving me a big crazy mess of rectangles. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to erase everything inside of those rectangles. Okay, so I'm using my eraser tool, and I'm just going to drag that around. And you might be saying to yourself, Mr. Manning, what in the world are you doing? Well, what I'm doing is I'm creating a perimeter. And this perimeter is going to be the outside of my house. Now, really simple, really easy. There's a tool underneath your push-pull menu that's called the offset tool. It's right here. So if I click on the offset tool and I drag this out to a certain length, what you'll see is I've got an exact copy of my line right here inside of the perimeter. Now this is going to allow me to do one thing. I'm going to take my push-pull tool now, and I'm going to grab the area in between I'm going to pull that up and look at that. I've got the house. Okay, so this is going to be the outside perimeter of my house. All right, hopefully you guys have got some walls at this point. Maybe you drew it out with the line tool. Maybe you drew it out with squares like I did. Whatever it is, hopefully you have created some sort of a walled area. Now, some of you may be asking yourselves, how is this a house? Well, if I look at it from the side, I've got the walls and things. If I was to do something like draw a roof on it, which this is not really how you draw a roof, but if I was to do something like that, you can see, bam, kind of looks like a house there. So you just have to kind of use your imagination a little bit right now and imagine that what you've got here is a house without a roof and a house without walls on the inside. Okay, now I'm going to show you a couple other things real quick, and all we're going to do is just try to put it together. So what I want you to do, if you don't have the walls up yet, is I want you to go ahead and pause the video and put those walls up. Now, once you've got those walls up, we're going to move on to something else. So again, pause the video. All right, here we go. So hopefully you're back. And one of the things I want to show you is how to do a door. So, excuse me, we're going to select that rectangle tool again, and we're going to orbit around, and we're going to be on the inside of the building. Okay. The key is that you do this from the inside because you may have put floor thickness. You may have pulled your floor, and that sometimes causes a issue if you try to make your door from the outside. Now we're just going to grab a rectangle up, and we're going to make a door about the size we want it to be. And we're going to pull that, touching the back wall with our pull tool, letting it go. And now we have a door. Okay. If you want to do interior walls in your house, which I recommend if you're doing a house, you do interior walls. Now you would do that by simply grabbing your rectangle tool. Let's say we wanted to make this a separate room right here. Okay. So we're going to grab our rectangle tool. We would start here on the corner, and we would draw a wall. We would do this from this corner. We'll draw it this way. We'll draw a wall here. Erase, 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 erase. Push, pull. And bam, we got ourselves an interior wall. I'll probably make the thickness of this wall a little bit less, and the thickness of this wall a little bit less here. Now, one of the things that I like to do so that I have cohesiveness in the model is I will erase the lines where these things come together. So I'm just zooming in and erasing those lines, and now we have ourselves an interior wall. Gonna grab my rectangle tool. I'm gonna push pull, or excuse me, not push pull. I'm gonna drag the door, push pull the hole, bam, there we go. And I'm gonna erase that line on the floor. So there you go. So we just built an interior wall. So like I said, your assignment, once you've got this practiced out a little bit, is to do one of two things. I don't care which. Okay, your assignment is one of two things. You are to build a house or a building that has interior walls in it and nothing else. So you're to build a house or a building with interior walls. I would suggest trying to draw your own house. That would be great. That way you can just look around the house, see where your walls are at, and you don't have to necessarily create anything. Or two, you can build a model of your own room. Now, if you do a model of your own room, I'm going to want details in it, like the bed, a dresser, a closet. You don't have to put the clothes in the closet. That would be very difficult in SketchUp. But you can build all of the furniture that is also in your room. So your room, if you're doing just your room, do the room and the furniture. If you're doing the building, you got to do the building and the interior walls. Now, one of the things I didn't show you that you guys can play around with is using the paint bucket tool. See if it'll let me select it here. There we go. Using the paint bucket tool. And that's going to bring up this over here on the side, if you go to the browse button right here, this is going to allow you to browse all of these different types of textures for your walls and for your floors and for everything else. And here I'll just show you a couple things real quick, and then you guys can play around with this. You're smart, you know how to do that stuff. So I'm going to select wood, and I'm going to go to this wood floor material and watch. Boom. Now I got wood floors in my model. So this is a lot of fun once you get playing around with it, is doing all the walls and the textures, and you can paint your house and you can do all things exactly like the house that you have, or exactly like your room, whatever. Okay. So again, this is going to be due in 2 weeks. So this is one of your choice projects. All right, guys, good luck. Email me if you have any issues. Get a hold of me over Classroom if you have any problems. All right. See y'all later. All right, guys. So one last little add-on to our SketchUp video here is how to save your file and how to upload your file, or upload actually images of your file, to Google Classroom. So all we're going to do, very simple stuff here, is up here in the left-hand corner, you'll see the save button. So you want to make sure you save, enter in the title of your model. You could just name it whatever. I just called it Manning SketchUp model, and go ahead and hit OK. All right. And it's going to ask where to save it to, or it's going to show you where you're saving it to, and it's going to save the model. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to save it SketchUp For Schools file. That makes the most sense. Now let's just go back here. And I'm just going to save it there. So once you hit select on that file, it'll save it. So now it'll tell you Manning SketchUp model will be the title, and it will say saved here. Now, that is step one in the saving process. Okay. So you can try to upload your model to Classroom, but I can't guarantee that I can open up your model and look around at it. I have been able to do that in the past, but I've been also stopped from doing that in the past by other files. Okay, so it doesn't always work. Okay, so what does work every time is to do it this way. So what we'll do is we'll go to our three. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's not there. I gotta find it. All right, so it took me a second there. Sorry, guys, I had to find it. It's been a while since I've dealt with SketchUp For Schools. You're going to go right here to the File menu. Okay, so it's right next to where it says Saved, and you're going to go File, and that's going to bring this drop-down menu out. And then what you want to do is you want to go to Export. Okay, so what you're going to want to do once you export is you want to export as a PNG. That is an image file. Okay, so we're going to export as a PNG. This screen right here is going to show you exactly what your PNG or your image is going to look like. Okay. Now below, and I don't know why it's necessarily doing this, but I'll bring it up a little bit, bring my screen up a little bit. And now I'm going to move my face. There we go. There's a little button right here that says export as PNG. Okay. So we'll export this as a PNG. We're going to hit that button. And then right down here, it has started the download process. Okay, so it is saved Manning SketchUp PNG. Okay, and I'm going to save. Now what I want to do is I'm going to move around to a different image. So let's say I moved it to here. I want to go to this. I want to go to export as PNG. Making me move my face again. Export as PNG. Okay. And if I go show in folder here, there they are right there. Manning SketchUp 1, Manning SketchUp Model, Manning SketchUp Model 1. So you can take those two images that'll be in your downloads folder, and you can actually upload the images of your model to Google Classroom, and then I can just look at the images and give you a grade based on that. Okay, so again, let's go back to SketchUp. Okay, so once we're back in SketchUp, we got to make sure that we save our model. Saved. We're going to go to File, Export, PNG, bada bing, bada boom. Save all that. Save as many images as you want. Again, you can try to upload the file if you want, or you can just upload images of the file. So if you've got 5 different rooms in your house, you might want to send me 5 different images. If you've got one room, it's just your bedroom, but you did a dresser and you did a bed and you did all this other stuff, you may want to send me images of everything in your room. Guys, that is all okay. So go ahead and do what you need to do. Send me what you need to send. Upload it all to Google Classroom, to the assignment that I put in Google Classroom. I would prefer the images over the model, but you can try to upload the model if you want. So good luck. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.